Yes. Over to you, Ms. Emma.
All right, thanks, Felicia. So just like Felicia said, I want to welcome everybody to our class today. I'm super excited that you decided to join us, and we're glad to have you here. Like Felicia said, it's being recorded, so if you missed something during this go around and you want to catch it again, then make sure to check on Michael's YouTube page and their website in 24 to 48 hours so that you can rewatch this at your own leisure. So today we are painting these super cute birdhouses and making them into a Christmas village using FolkArt acrylic paint. And we have one superstar of this class too, which is FolkArt Terra, which is a lightly textured acrylic paint. And I'm super excited about this product today because this is what is creating all of this beautiful fake snow that you see going on in our Christmas village. So it is a really awesome product to achieve that faux snow look in little miniatures or whatever you're doing to decorate for the holidays. So I want to remind you, of course, today Stephen is here with us. So if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat about any technique or product that we're using today. Make sure to put that in the chat and Stephen can relay your questions to me live. And I also want to ask you guys, we're going to be focusing on one of the birdhouses in particular today, just so we don't run over on our allotted time. So this guy right here, it showcases most of the techniques that you want to know for the entire village. But if you have a specific question about a technique from another one of the houses that you saw in our class listing, then just make sure to put that in the chat so I can make sure to go over if you guys have questions. But let's get started. So we listed in our class description to just have a variety of FolkArt acrylic paint. FolkArt is my favorite paint to use, so that's what we asked you to bring to this class. But of course, you can have any acrylic paint that you want, and we just set a variety of colors. So I set that in the supplies so that you guys could pick the colors that really matched your own personalized home decor. So I'll show you guys what colors I'm going to be working with, but if you have any questions like, hey, I'm using this like light pink color and I wanted to paint a brick pattern on my walls with this light pink color, what other color should I use for accents for my bricks? I'm happy to ask those questions for your projects that you're working on at home. So here are the paints that I'm used for this birdhouse. We used steel gray, dove gray, thicket, berry wine, and wicker white. And of course, our FolkArt terracotta paint. And the one that I have found that looks the most like snow is Snowbank. Funny enough, right? But you could use any kind of off-white color. FolkArt. Michael's has a lot of terracotta paint in their store and online. So make sure to check it out. If you've never used it before, it is one of my favorite products that FolkArt has. Like I said, it's a lightly textured acrylic paint, and it is great for if you find like a inexpensive base at your local thrift store. I'll show you guys one right here. So for example, just to show you guys, in case you're wondering, here is a vase that we got from the thrift store, and then here is what it looks like with our FolkArt terracotta. You can see this one is super glossy and kind of banged up and dingy, and then this one is ultra matte, and it looks like a brand new piece of decor. So that's what FolkArt terracotta is. It's great for home decor. It's great for more crafty things like this, but it's just an all-around really cool product. I recommend that you guys try some. Okay, so I'm going to put some of my dove gray onto my palette here. And for this whole craft today, I'm just going to be using small flat brushes. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to paint this color right here, this light blue. So that's what the dove gray is. It's a kind of a bluish gray. And I'm going to go ahead and base coat the sides of my little house. And one thing I want to mention is when I get towards the floor of my house, I'm not too worried about keeping that line really clean and crisp and not letting any paint get onto this part, because as you can see here, we're going to add our snow to that at the end. So we don't really care if that line stays super crisp, because naturally snow would get all over the place and it wouldn't just stay at the edge of your house. That makes sense. Okay. We got that side. And I always say, you know, paint with the size brush that you feel comfortable with. If you're ever in a class and somebody asks you to paint with a 1-inch flat brush or like a 1/2-inch flat brush, and you want to use a round brush, or you want to use whatever else that you have on hand that you feel more comfortable with, then by all means do that. So if you have like another brush that you want to use today, go ahead and use it.
Emma, could you say the name of the color you're using one more time?
Yeah, of course. Right now I'm using Dove Gray.
Cool.
Really pretty light gray with like a bluish undertone.
Hey, Emma, this is Felicia. If you don't mind, can you move the house up just a little bit
Yes.
more? Thank you.
I always do that. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we are just painting around our little scalloped wreath that we got going on here. So you can kind of tell, you know, this birdhouse might initially look a little bit springy with the scalloped trim on our circle here. It, you know, kind of looks like little petals, but we made it a little bit more wintry and we turned it into a Christmas wreath. So we're gonna do the same thing, of course, today. All right, and we're not super duper worried about going overboard and getting our Dove Gray on our wreath because we're gonna eventually paint over that. So just want to make sure that we don't leave any raw wood. Getting in there. Let's make the surface work for us and not work for the surface. So we're gonna move our surface so that it's easier to paint instead of having to think of different ways to hold our brush. So, you know, hard to reach places like this. Sometimes you're like, oh, I really don't want to get any paint onto the window because my window is going to be burgundy and I don't want to get any light blue on there. Sometimes you just have to sacrifice a little bit of that control to get in those hard to reach areas because we're absolutely going to paint over our window with that burgundy in the end. Okay, so once you base coat your house, I'm going to go ahead and blow dry this so that we can move on to the next step. I have a blow dryer just for time's sake today, but let's do that. Okay, so now that our walls are base coated, I'm going to go ahead and apply some steel gray, which is this darker gray color, onto my palette. And as you can see here on our finished birdhouse, steel gray is what we use to paint the roof of our house and to paint some of this brick detailing. So let's go ahead and paint our roof. In this part, we don't really have to worry about the fine details as much. There's no spaces to maneuver around. We're just going to base coat it. So Stephen, so far, do we have anybody asking to see any specific techniques that they want to see or parts of the other birdhouses that we might not get to today?
Not so far, but guys, definitely let us know if you have anything specific that you want to check out. I did want to tell you that people have sort of let us know where they're tuning in from.
Yeah.
We have a couple of viewers from California, from Colorado, Indiana, and New Zealand.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, welcome, guys. It sounds like we have a diverse bunch, so I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for joining us. And of course, you know, you got to be mindful of where your guests in your home or where you're going to be looking at your birdhouse. So if you miss any spots, you definitely don't want to miss the spots that people are going to be looking at. So just be mindful of that, what's front facing and what you're going to see in the end.
Emma, do you know off the top of your head what some of the colors were for the other houses, like that green on the roof, maybe?
You know what? For that one, I added some of my thicket, which we're going to use today. And I added a touch of navy, just like a tiny, tiny bit, because I really loved the deep richness of the thicket, the deep, rich green, but I wanted to make it a little bit, I wanted it to have a little bit more of a cooler tone. So I added just a touch of a really dark blue to my thicket to achieve that cool, dark green hue.
Okay. We have some other folks letting us know where they're from: Massachusetts, New York, Detroit, and Nevada, all around.
Awesome. Cool.
This seems like a pretty low intensity craft. Like it's just sort of low, you know, easy, like just chill painting, you know?
Yes, I agree with you, Stephen. You don't have to think about it too much. I'm going to hopefully show you guys some fun techniques to add a little bit of pizzazz to your own Christmas village made out of birdhouses at home. But this is definitely a really fun craft to do for a girls' night, or maybe like a winter party that your kids are having, or something fun like that. It is a really great, just like you said, Stephen, low stress craft. It is super duper fun, and you get to be really creative, which I love. I feel like my favorite crafts when I was a kid were definitely the ones where I got to choose, where it wasn't all laid out for me, where I got to choose my own color palette. I got to pick out my own stickers, and it didn't come in a pack. So the fun part about this is that you get to choose it to be your own color palette. Unless you're really inspired by the ones we're using today, I'd be flattered if you were, but like I said in the beginning, use whatever you want. This is your Christmas village.
Mary Young just left a comment that says that she's got all 3 of the birdhouses at Michael's this morning. So good timing.
Awesome. Yeah, super good timing. That's awesome. They have the cutest birdhouses at Michael's right now. That church one, I mean, come on, that little chapel birdhouse. I can't get over how cute they are. They're really, really cute this year. Okay, so now you guys, maybe I shouldn't have washed my brush, but that's okay. I got too into talking with you guys. So I'm gonna flip it to the side where we painted our dove gray. And I'm gonna start working on this little brick detail. And I'll hold it closer so you guys can see well. But we're going to do a little bit of color mixing real quick, because we want to achieve different tones of our grays that we're using, okay? So you can see in the one that I already made, it's a bunch of different tones of gray. There's dark and medium and light. So we're going to do a little bit of color mixing. So I'll show my palette in the middle, because we want like the same color gray, but we want it all different tones. So we're going to scoop up a little bit of our light gray, and we're going to go for a 2/3 ratio. 2 parts are dove gray to 1 part of our steel gray, our darker gray. And this goes for any kind of color you want. If you're doing pinks, if you're doing reds, if you're doing browns. Okay. And if the colors don't look different enough to you than our, regular steel or dove gray, then if you want to make it a little bit darker, add the darker color. If you want to make it a little bit lighter, add the lighter color. We're not looking for a total science. We just want to see some variation in these colors. That's all. And you don't even have to rinse your brush when you start mixing a new color, because you're going to get more of those colors on your brush anyway. So now maybe we'll go for 2/3 of our steel gray and 1/3 of our dove gray. So we get a bunch of different colors of gray. Okay. Now since we're really just working with grays right now, I'm not even gonna rinse my brush. I'm just gonna get some of that excess paint off onto my paper towel. When I say excess, I mean as much as I can off onto the paper towel. Okay, how are we doing in the chat, Stephen? Are we doing good?
We're doing good.
Cool. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my base, we're gonna start laying our bricks, you guys. So we're gonna lay our first brick down with our darkest color, which is our steel gray. And I like to keep in mind that however tall I want my bricks to be, that's the size brush I'm gonna look for. That's the width of the brush that I'm gonna look for. Okay, so I'm going to just make a straight line right there. Okay, and then maybe I'll do another one up here. And I'm trying to keep it as straight as I can, because I'm almost in my head trying to imagine if this were real life. You know, I don't want like, you know, one overlapping right here, kind of like starting halfway where my existing brick is, if that makes sense. I want to look like, you know, they're actually being laid for real. And instead of having to put all of our bricks in there, we're just going to give the illusion that this is a brick house by adding little sections of brick, kind of hinting at it. So with our darkest color, if you even want to like kind of space where your bricks would be with your brush, you can kind of do that. I just saw that. I'm using a number 8 flat brush, okay? For reference. Okay, just a small flat brush, nothing specific, nothing super specific, I should say. Whatever you have on hand should work just fine. So we don't have to change our color on our brush. We're gonna space out our darkest brick color all over.
Emma, do you think it would be okay to use terracotta to paint the house?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great idea. You could definitely use terracotta to paint the house. I love that idea. You would have a really, really pretty ultra matte finish, which would look awesome. So we're gonna, you know, paint like half of a brick right against our window too, because, you know, in real life, the bricks wouldn't stop near the window or the door. So we want to make it realistic and paint half of our brick right by the window. You see that? Just to make it kind of more natural looking. And maybe paint half of a brick going off the side of our house. Okay. And then I'm going to switch colors. So not going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to wipe it off on a paper towel. Okay. And now we're going to go in with our other colors that we mixed, and we're going to finish laying those bricks. So we're just going to kind of alternate the colors that we use so that we get variety in our colors. And we're painting them all over our house, okay? And when I say all over, I really should specify we're just painting little clusters of bricks all over our house. And just to, you know, make this look really natural and to not make it look like the bricks are just so uniform and in a row, I don't really want to layer many bricks like right under each other with the same length. You see how I never really did that? So for instance, I wouldn't want to put this brick here and then the same length with the same placement right under it. I have it alternating just to give it a more natural look and feel. That looks really cute, you guys. So once you're done, you're gonna have little clusters of these cute little bricks all over your house. Adorable. All right, you guys. So next we are going to go ahead and paint our doors and our windows. And the color that I used for those two is berry wine, this really pretty dark burgundy color. Squeeze some of that onto our palette and grab, I'm going to rinse off the brush that I just used for my bricks actually, that small flat brush, and use this to paint my door and my window. Nothing special here, just base coating our door and our window. I would love to know in the comment section, Stephen, if people are switching up the colors of their birdhouses, if they're doing anything fun with theirs. I'd love to know that.
Yeah, I think the person who asked the question about the terracotta is going for a more neutral, sort of relaxed look.
I love that.
Yeah, they were actually asking the color of the house with the green roof. Is it like the salmon or sort of pinkish? Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
You know, I believe it's conch shell, but if you are looking to, paint your houses with terracotta, we have lots of really, really pretty, like dusty pinks in the line. So
Base the pink is a good terracotta color.
Base the pink is really pretty. There's a lots of really pretty, really natural earthy colors in our terracotta line. So definitely give that a look. Okay, being really careful when we're painting the tops of our windows and our doors. Of course, if you get it a little bit over, do not fret because it's just paint and you can always paint over it. But it's always easier when you do it right the first time, right? Onto our door. And we are going to make sure to paint like the little insides of our windows too. Makes it look more finished.
Mary Young says that she's gonna probably use multi-surface paint because she wants to put these outside.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. All right, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush. And now I'm going to apply some thicket onto my palette. And we are going to paint our cute little wreath with thicket. And because these little raised parts of our birdhouse, it is so thin, you really don't have to worry about painting the edges. If you want to paint the edge with like your dove gray, so you get a little bit overboard on top of your wreath, and then you just paint the surface of your wreath, that's totally fine. Nobody's going to be looking too hard at the edges, if you know what I mean.
Somebody posted a comment here that they're going to try some of these techniques on their gingerbread villages.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. That's awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and blow dry this just to set the paint in place. But if you're curious, you don't have a blow dryer at home and you're wanting to follow along, then, I would just wait like 10 minutes for this to dry. We didn't put a super thick coat. We just put a nice thin coat just to cover it with paint, but nothing, crazy. So it'd probably give it like 10, 15 minutes before you do this next step. So I'm going to go ahead, put my brush in my water basin and blow dry this. All right, you guys. So now we are going to apply some white onto our palette. This is wicker white. Ooh, gotta take the label off. This is wicker white. Any white will work fine. Oops, gotta shake it up a little bit.
Hey, Emma, this is Felicia. I have a question.
Sure.
Just to go with that outdoors question, would you say if someone wanted to seal it with the Mod Podge or the I can't even think of the name. My mind went completely blank.
You're fine. I totally know where you're going with this. If you were just using regular FolkArt acrylic paint and you wanted to seal it to place it outside, then Michael's has some really awesome products to seal these birdhouses to place outside. What I would recommend is either Mod Podge Outdoor. You'd apply it just like regular Mod Podge. You let it cure and then you're able to set it outside and it's outdoor safe, of course. Or you could use Mod Podge Ultra, which is a really exciting product. And we love talking about it because it's so awesome. But Mod Podge Ultra is a spray Mod Podge formula, and it is water resistant, which of course makes it indoor outdoor as well. So that is another great sealer to just spray on your birdhouses. Don't even worry about it and then set it outside and forget it. Okay, you guys, so what we're going to do next is we apply some white onto our palette, and we're going to apply a little bit of our thicket, just that much compared to how much white there is. Can you guys see that? So not much green at all. And we are going to mix that together. And when you're mixing something like this, we're looking for a light green color. So we know that there's going to be much more white needed than there is green. So always, less is more. You can always add more green, but you don't really want to waste your paint. So it's not the greatest to add more white at the end. So start with a little bit of green, and then if you need to add a little bit more, which we do, then you can always do that later. Okay, until we get this really pretty light minty green. Okay, and we're going to swipe some of that excess onto our plate and actually onto a paper towel too. We're looking for a pretty dry brush right here for this next little technique I'm going to show you guys. So either grab a brush that you haven't dipped in your water yet, or just try your best just to get all of the moisture out of it with like a paper towel. Okay, and we're going to use a little flat brush. And we're going to apply some of our light green onto our brush. And then we're going to offload some of that onto a paper towel or a plate or something. You guys see that? If you've ever stenciled before, it's very similar to offloading before you start stenciling. So we just offloaded some. And now what we're going to do is on our wreath, we're gonna hold our brush perpendicular to our wreath, and we're gonna dab in an up and down motion, just like this, okay? And what it's gonna do, I'll show you guys, just kind of lightly. And if you're seeing a little too much in the beginning, a little too much paint going on, and it's not as subtle as you want, then just offload some of it onto your paper towel again. And what this is gonna do, it's gonna add some texture to your greenery. Just some more interest into your little village. So, and maybe your green was a little bit too light. I'm actually looking and thinking my green is a little bit too light, but I mixed, but that's totally okay. What I'm gonna do to counteract that is I'm going to do the same thing I just did with my light green, but I'm gonna do it with my thicket. So I'm gonna apply some thicket to my brush, offload, and dab, dab, dab in all of the lighter green areas. We're dab, 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 perpendicular to our birdhouse. And then it looks like this. You just get some really cool texture there, and it looks a little bit more realistic. I love that technique for any kind of foliage that I'm painting or adding to my crafting. It's a really simple little technique, and it always turns out really cute. All right, you guys, so do I have my red? Yes, I do. Okay, so you can see I added some little bright red ornaments to my wreath guy. So I have my bright red here, and with the smallest brush that I have in my little brush basket, I'm gonna whip that out, and with the back of my brush. So I'm looking for the thinnest brush, and then I'm gonna flip it over to the back of my brush and dip that in my bright red. And with the back of my brush having the paint on it, I am going to make little polka dots on my wreath that act as little ornaments, or you could do this with yellow or white and have them be, lights. That'd be cute. Or you can do it with a bunch of different colors to have multicolor ornaments hanging on your wreath. But we're just making little cute tiny polka dots on our wreath. How cute. And it really kind of makes it pop because we're using some, really kind of darker colors, and just having that really bright red really does make it pop a little bit. Are we good, Stephen? Is there any techniques people are dying to know in our other two houses? I just want to make sure I don't miss that.
I don't think I've seen anything specific. Anastasia says that she loves these techniques all around though. So we're glad to hear it.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, you guys. So the next step that you would want to do is you would want to paint your fence, of course, on your house. But I think for this one, just to switch it up a little bit, I'm going to leave my fence raw wood, and there's nothing super exciting about painting our fence. It's the same as base coating the other parts of our birdhouse. So I'm not going to waste your guys' time to paint this entire fence. We're going to jump in now to applying our faux snow. Okay, so I'm going to put this palette aside because it's pretty filled with paint. And now we're going to break out our FolkArt terracotta in Snowbank. I'm going to apply that to our palette. And if you're just joining us now, FolkArt terracotta is a really exciting semi-new paint. It is a lightly textured acrylic paint, and it just adds the prettiest, really faux snow detail to our Christmas villages. So one thing to keep in mind when you're adding your faux snow to your village is you want to make it look, if you do, I wanted to make my village look pretty realistic. So I wanted the snow to be where it would actually fall in real life. So I actually did look at like photographs of, snowy Christmas towns and see where the faux was like falling on the roofs and on the ground and on the fences and on the stairs. So just keep that in mind because it really honestly does look better and cuter when it's kind of realistic. So with that in mind, and I'll let you guys look at these houses that we have, we're going to add our snow to where it would actually fall. You know, just think about gravity. And that's where we're going to put our snow, and think about when the ice is melting. And so, you know, the great thing about FolkArt terracotta is that it goes on really, really nice and smooth. But for this, we want to have that texture, and we want to make it a little less than smooth. Okay. We want it to have that, you know, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? We want it to be textured. Okay. We don't want it to be super smooth. So to achieve that, we are actually going to do a similar technique to what we did with our light green on our wreath. And we're going to kind of dab our terracotta a little bit more lightly, just to keep that almost volume in our snow. And we're dabbing our terracotta, and it'll hold its shape. It's not like regular acrylic paint, like our regular FolkArt. It's not going to settle and, you know, flatten. It's going to keep its shape. So along the trim of our roof, we're kind of dabbing with our terracotta. Keeping in mind where our snow would actually settle. And like I said, if you struggle with this, that's totally okay. You can look at photographs, you can kind of copy my birdhouses, you're welcome to. But we definitely know that the snow would kind of settle on the highest points, because that's definitely where the snow would hit, right? So we're starting at our high points. We're gonna add some, I'll show you guys like this. I'll show you our finished one for reference. We're gonna add them right here. So they're kind of at the little ledges of our roof, and we're still dabbing. We're not like using pretty long brush strokes. We're dabbing for sure. And we're kind of doing this pattern where it gets a little bit wider on the corners of each ledge, and then it thins out towards the middle, okay? And honestly, I think this is the most fun part, at least for me, of making these birdhouses. It like really, really makes it come to life. That was always my favorite part when I used to help my mom set up her Christmas village in our living room. Getting to put the faux snow, it was like it got everywhere, all that loose glitter and tinsel, but that was definitely the best part. Made it feel like I was living in that little town. And we are located in Atlanta, Georgia, so we usually don't get a whole lot of snow in the winter. Dab, 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 adding our snow. Look how cute, and look how quick too. I mean, we did that really quick, you guys. All right, now we're gonna add it to the front part. Like I said, try your hardest on the front, but people are gonna see. Whenever I'm trying like a new craft that I'm not super confident about, I like to start on the back and do a little bit of practice before I work my way to the front. No one will ever know if you mess up. How cute, you guys. Okay, so now when we're adding our snow to the face of our house, we're gonna hit it at the top. We're gonna hit it at points where, you know, the snow could get into. So you can see here, kind of the bottom of the wreath, like it's attaching any kind of flat surface where we think the snow would wanna fall to. We're gonna add the snow to. So the top of our fence, the top, and a little resting place on our wreath, same with the windows and the doors. So let's do that. And same thing as before, we are dabbing. And so like, for instance, we're getting a little bit on the wreath, and we're also getting a little bit on our brick, okay? And that's okay. We're trying to get a little bit more on our wreath instead of our brick, because that's, you know, how it would fall realistically. But if you, you know, get too much on your brick, you can use your finger and wipe it up. The great thing about FolkArt terracotta is that it's non-toxic. You can wipe it up real quick, wait for it to dry, and then recover it in your dove gray or whatever color you use to base coat it. Tap, 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 tap. So cute. And sometimes when snow settles, it kind of has like a bigger point in the middle. And then it has less of it on the sides. So cute. And lastly, we're going to add some to the top of our fence. So, so, so cute. Okay, and once you're done, you can just go ahead. If you're curious about washing your brushes that have FolkArt terracotta on it, the same as washing your other brushes, just, you know, regular water Basin, it'll come out great. We've gotten that question before, so I just want to clear that up. And then add some snow to your floor too. I forgot to do that step, but that's pretty self-explanatory. And then you guys, you end up with this. How cute is that? So you guys, I taught you all the techniques that you need to know to follow along and make your whole entire Christmas village. I hope you learned lots of fun tips and tricks and techniques during our class today. Plaid does a lot of classes with Michael's community classroom. So check us here next Wednesday for another crafting class and next Monday for a painting class where we teach you how to paint a painting in just about an hour. And if you make this at home, I definitely want to see it. So if you post it on social media, #PlaidCrafts, and that's how we'll find it. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.